Hello, hello. Today we're going to be talking about skills, all about skills you wanted to know. Cloud skills, Amazon Strands SOP, Kiro Powers, what the hell, all of that, installing skills, hosting your own skills, a lot of stuff that you can use to automate your DevOps flow. We will also look into some news, for example, why we're actually switching from the cursor and the new model from Anthropic that can up the game. But before we jump into this, let me introduce our co-hosts. Today we have Vladimir coming back from vacation and completing the 3 legs of our stool. So now we have a stability of the 3 legs stool. So Vladimir is back. Fernanda is still here with us, and my name is Andrey. Welcome. Let's jump to the news.
All right. So, first I think that we select the one with the cursor, which was an interesting one, right? Like Andrey shared.
We actually got quite a bit of the buzz on LinkedIn from this one. The cursor have changed the pricing model. If you haven't been aware, they did it last year in July. We kind of knew about it, but last month or this month, our annual subscription for Cursor renewed, and we switched from 500 credits for the fast request a month to just pretty much paying API rates. And basically in 1 week, we spend $1,000 just on those API requests. So it's not sustainable really for us going forward.
You would say we are not alone. I think like as more other companies feel the same, but they will expect it like as an end of a month. They just will review the bill and think, oh, this is now cost $1,000 per developer. It's maybe okay, but it's a bit unexpected.
Yeah, I would say we are late to the party because there were like a lot of buzz about that in July, where Cursor actually changed the prices, and there were people paying monthly, so they got hit first. We hit only now because we had the annual subscription, and we still had those 500 credits renewing every month, and that was like a really good deal. Right now, it's not a really good deal. But my personal opinion is that Cursor is showing us what's to come, because as models gets more useful, we are more and more in position, well, like just take our money, let us keep using it. But the timing of Cursor is not the best, because there are other players on the market who are actually subsidizing the usage a lot, and you're still getting those $20 deals with a lot of credits on top.
It's a bit of an interesting thing now. I run some numbers, some estimations. It may cost $5,000 to $6,000 a month to run a developer, AI developer, if you wish, 5 to 6. But this developer don't need a ED, it don't need a VS Code or Cursor or whatever. It's just need the model itself. We don't need to see. There's no one who operate the console. There's no seat, basically, which is a bit interesting how it's gonna evolve.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is it's amazing what it can do, right? But now I think you start seeing the other end of this, that if you go all in, you need to understand this. It's not for free, right? I think everybody was before, like, it's just $20. So instead of paying a developer, now you pay $20 and you have the same. Not really the case anymore. And but it's good to be aware. I think this just brings back this thing that watch out when, especially when you enable this kind of automatic charges, right? Automatic recharge or whatever mechanism the AI provider gives you, that you might get a surprise at the end of the month, or like happened to us after a week, right?
Yeah.
So
you start looking for alternatives, for example. There's for example, OpenCode, which is a bit more fair in my opinion, because yes, you pay API-based rate, but you know that. Yeah. So you're committed to that. You're gonna pay for API tokens, and this is it.
With this Cursor, they will give you a little bit of kind of credit, like if you use their models, right?
So 20 you can burn in a.
So like I think
even with the composer, right?
Models. So like if you're using the composer models, you have a little bit better rates, and that will last a little bit longer. But still, like if you do anything heavy, then it's not sustainable. And what we do instead now, so we need to do something, right? Instead of just using the cursor everywhere, we actually went back to Kiro, like I'm personally, because Kiro still gives you 1,000 of credits. Like last year, Kiro was letting you run, like when it was in the public preview, you just had the free access to the Sonnet, which was a good deal. Now they give you 1,000 credits, and I've been burning it for a week, and I'm still not through them. So we also have now a Claude Code subscription for the team, but that's like the one that is a middle, like the team subscription, which will run out after an hour and say, come back in 5 hours. That's like my experience with it. I basically burn through the limits in an hour or two of not very intensive work, I would say.
I did a couple of normal research, which I do with OpenAI models, for example. It's kind of out of limit. It's autonomous agent in Claude. It's very cool, but it's basically 2 of my researchers. It's out of quota, and I not even touch the keyboard. I just run it, and it's done. It looks like more like a trial.
Yeah, we still have cursor subscription for another year. We was not able to refund it.
It's actually, there's a good thing in the type tools like Cursor, is what I like. It's a hooks. It's where you can execute a shell, like as a command or Python script, before AI run the tool or command. So basically, I can check like as if something dangerous in a code which I got to execute and just stop it programmatically.
But I think hooks are more or less the resident for all the tools, so not only Cursor.
Exactly. So it's spreading. It's my favorite feature, which is now available in OpenCode as well.
Let's have hooks as another topic that we will cover in
hooks are nice. Yeah, I can discover like 9 different ways of using hooks. Different.
Save it for the next time.
Next time.
And the final thing is like what we. So the final thing is like we still will be paying API rates. So we've been running Cursor in CI as a code reviewer, like the issue analyzer. For the code review, for now, we just replaced it with the Claude Code, because Claude Code in GitHub, well, Claude Code itself has the most straightforward Bedrock integration. The rest of the tools I researched, like that being OpenCode and Klein,
in Cursor himself
can do roles. Cursor doesn't really do much of the. I mean, we used Cursor only because we had those credits. Like, also Cursor gave you access to the 2 different models, right? So we've been running 3 different models in parallel, doing code review and then synthesizing the review. But
it's what I find, like as maybe last week I found that like it's not possible to actually utilize all the features and provide your own key for the models in Cursor or in Claude as well. So you have your own key or Bedrock or something, you're not possible to use it. You have to go it through them, which is sometimes is not for everyone, I would like to say. Someone has some rules and regulations, it's not possible, blah, blah, blah.
I think the closest to the replacement for Claude Code that I probably will spend time looking at is OpenCode, because they support the Bedrock API keys, that like the keys that you generate from Bedrock, and you can have like a temporary keys now, so it should be possible to do something similar to the temporary role, because I want to use multiple models from the Bedrock.
I know what we're gonna do next time, because it's aligned with the hooks thing, because hooks are available in OpenCode, so it's gonna be OpenCode.
We can also talk about the OpenCode eventually. Like, let's add it to the document. We're spending already 9 minutes on this news, so like maybe we should move off. And very briefly, last week there was a leaked documents that Anthropic is closing to release a new model, and that will be the new class above Opus. So it's like they say that's like going to be a game changer in the models, and they scared of the fact that why we're actually bringing it up, like what it has to do with Agentic AI and DevOps. They scared that this model has the most advanced cyber capabilities from the models they delivered, which means that it will be very strong when it comes to hacking. and they're afraid that it will be leveraged for the mass hacking campaigns by hackers, obviously. So that's why they actually working with defenders first, and they will be releasing this model, access to this model first to defenders, so they can harden the infrastructure before it hits the public market. So if you needed a reason to prioritize your security, that's the reason.
There you go.
Before that, the attackers were constrained by the resources they have, like the time they have. Now they can automate it through a very powerful model. So forget about the script kiddies.
Exactly. It's a real-time phishing game changer, because now people can build all of your interfaces in the real time. If you change your UI and your app, attacker will change the same thing. But I wonder about the pricing for that model. It's confirmed attraction.
Probably going to be expensive.
Do you want to guess how much it's going to cost?
I haven't heard any estimates, so I don't know.
$20 per million. $20 per million.
It's just a bet, right? But it's I think this is thinking in these capabilities, you can get defenders like in front, but how many companies are still fully exposed, right? Like even now we saw all of those things with OpenCode as well, like as another project, how many people got hacked. It's gonna be interesting to see how these things that can unlock like superpowers for the good can also be leveraged for things that are not that ideal, right? But let's see, right, when it comes out.
That's a perfect segue to our topic, because OpenCode, as any other agentic tools, have skills, as you mentioned, and superpowers. Let's talk about skills. What are the skills that people all talk about? Who knows?
Yeah, I think for me, like the thing that comes when I think about skills is the movie The Matrix, when they plug it in Neo and he says, "Oh, now I know Kung Fu," right? Like there is that scene where agent, if you would think like Neo, he would know things in general, and then you get that set of particular methodology on how to do something, and you plug it into the brain, and then at that point, now you know how to do it maybe better than you did before. And this is kind of the analogy I use to explain skills, and it's like for us as humans, right? So you teach the agent how to do something in a more structured way with certain balances and things that you can use. I don't know how you guys look at it from a more like abstract way, maybe help people understand before we dive into the technical. Right?
Yeah, we can say like the skills are closing a knowledge gap between, because sometimes agent they know everything in the world. Obviously, we can find everything, but it's a matter of time, and we close that amount of time, and we share our experience. Plus, time to time is something that a company or individual develop from their own. Like as I do things that way, I write a blog post that way. It's exactly that. I want inside blog post this and that. So it's going to be a skill, but also it's time to time just a bunch of shell, Python, the scripting thing there, and a fancy way of creating make files time to time. But it depends how we structure it. In my opinion, skill need to be more define a structure, what you want to get an outcome and how to do it, and after agent can find out themselves.
Yeah, but I would double on that. So the most use you have is explaining to agent the way you do things. Like for instance, you might have some internal tooling that the agent will not know how to use, and you define the skill as a way to explain to the agent how to use it. And if you watched our previous recording, which I think you should, where we spoke about the context and how it gets polluted and what goes into the context, you remember we spoke about system prompt, your input message, and then all the tools that gets into there. But skills is something that being loaded into your context, into what agent knows dynamically. So this is not something that's being loaded on the start of the session. This is something that agent is able to discover and then figure out, okay, he's asking me to do that, and then by the hints you define in the skill, it will load the skill into the context. So that allows you to build a big collection of things that agent might need, but it will able to load it dynamically. And that's like a very important concept in there. And when it comes to the distribution, like if we basically boil it down, so the skill is just a markdown file where you write instructions that will be loaded in plain English or whatever language you use. I guess like any language will do. But then you might heard of the plugins, right? So people talking about installing the plugins. There are websites on the internet that offer you plugin to download plugins. So in most cases today, everyone defaulting to the Anthropic's or cloud definition of skills and plugins. So think of the plugin as a container. That container, a plugin, can contain multiple skills / markdown files defining different stuff. But it's not limited to that. It could also have a shell scripts in there or any other scripts, like just like the text files that you distribute together with your MD files, and then agent can call those scripts. Because, like for instance, if you need to collect some information, it's faster to do it via the script rather than agent stumbling through every single command. It's better to run the script, get the output, and then let the agent proceed. Then it can also have MCP configuration in there, and it could also have a definition of the subagents. So you can actually distribute quite a lot through one plugin. And boys and girls, installing plugins from the internet, you should really think twice before doing that. It's the same comes as, running the Docker image from random Docker image from Docker Hub. But with Docker image, it's at least contained without Docker image. Within Docker image, this shell scripts you download, and the instructions going to be run with your permission and the full access to the file system. You think twice.
Many horror stories there, right?
Yeah, maybe we need some analogy here, like as we meet some stranger on the street and give him a key of our house and tell, oh, let's please go inside and deliver a mail or milk.
If you go back to the Fernanda's example of OpenCode having skills, so OpenCode is able to educate itself and discover skills on the internet. And there are already a bunch of websites like hubs with OpenCode skills, where like 95% of those skills are malicious, like credential stealer, like credit card stealer, like the contact stealer, and so on and so on. So think twice.
Yeah, I have started using a lot of skills on my day-to-day here, but because of this, I'm usually like, let me understand the concepts and things like this and create my own skills, so then I have more control over it. Because this is indeed like, I remember when OpenCode came out, everyone was so excited with the capabilities and this idea, like I can just one command or just even ask AI, right? Like install a skill and learn how to do it. And then you hear all the horror stories, right? So it's very important to remember that you're basically allowing that thing to run whatever command is built inside of the markdown file, right? And those scripts and all that. So always keep that in mind, right?
But it's not all gloom and doom. There is actually a good things. So now keep in mind, when people say installing plugin, in your head, you think copy someone else's markdown to my computer. But there are still ways to do it in a safe way that we recommend you to do. And you can create a plugin marketplace, what's called. I don't know why we coming up with the names that are confusing for the things that they are not. But anyhow, plugin marketplace is basically a private GitHub repository with JSON file with it that describes all the plugins you have in this repository. That's like the only thing what it is. It's just like a private GitHub repository. Plugin marketplace is just a fancy name for it. Like that's a Claude terminology uses. don't let those things trick you, but it's useful. So what you can do within your organization is you can create a private repository and put your skills in there. There are a few ways to organize them. I like one way you can think of, create a plugin per team. Like you have different teams, create them a plugin where they can add their own skills and MCP configuration and sub-agents, so they don't pollute the whole repository. They have one place where they organize themselves and they have ownership of that place. Then if there is something that really works well for that team, might be useful for another team, you can either copy it between the plugins or create a new plugin that will be default for everyone. And then you would need to find a way for people to automatically install it by running the Claude command or what have you as your agent, and here you have it. So now it runs, and then you just need to make sure you remember to update it, because there is no automation to update it, obviously. All of that is very raw, but you might need to build it. But yeah, that's how you do it, and this is how it's useful.
Yeah, no, that's cool, right? Like it's a setup when you have a team, because this is always the thing, like how you can share, right? I think from a personal experience as well, like I use skills more for my own process. So it is interesting to understand as well where you can place them, right? So you can have skills at the user level, so those skills are available to all, thinking about Claude Code particularly, yes, right? To all sessions in your machine. Or you can have skills at the project level, which can be very cool as well. If you have a particular project that's very, I don't know, specific to something, and you say, hey, I want every time to handle this project in a certain way, you can create a skill inside of the context of the project. And that also goes with Cursor, right? They can load skills into Cursor and like these other IDEs as well, or coding, yes, agents, right?
Most of the tools nowadays, they respect the Claude Code skill format, so they would recognize it and load it from there. Some of them need extra prodding, but generally they would do it. Some of the tools actually choose their own way. Like there is Kiro Powers, which
I haven't
is very similar thing to the Claude skills. I'm like all the comparisons I found had a very gray distinction between them. I might be wrong here, so I'm open to be thrown tomatoes at me if I'm wrong. But I feel it's just calling the same thing, different names.
Different names, same thing.
Yeah, just so we are different. Another thing that you might see on the internet is SOP, which, like, especially if you live in the AWS land, it's standard operating procedures. There are a bunch of AWS resources that recognize it. So, like, for instance, AWS Resilience Hub will use SOPs. If you're using the AWS Knowledge MCP, I learned hard way that it actually has a tool for loading AWS-defined also SOPs that you cannot influence. Strands agents also defines SOPs and allow you to define your own SOPs, load them, and then strands-based agents can run those SOPs for you. That's like actually what Boris does. That's like the tool we are building. It's using strands SOPs format to load the instructions and allow teams to define their own procedures. Like one thing where it's useful, like in the context of Boris DevOps agent, for instance, you have the squeaky service that's frequently giving you a headache, but it's a legacy service. The person who built it in an obscure arcane language left long time ago. You kind of going to replace it with something better one day. You're kind of doing it, but it's still taking time. So each time that squeaky service starts to misbehave, there are certain things you're going to check to know if it's a real problem or not. It's a very well known patient that service is. So what you can do is, instead of asking the like Boris or any other Agentic you have, to troubleshoot it, like repeating all those steps, what you do is you basically define the SOP or a skill, depending again the system you operate. Like in the case of Boris, that will be SOP, telling it like this service is there, this is how it fails, this is what you check. So next time, like I ask you to run SOP, think of SOP as a runbook, basically. You go do that, present me result. Another good use case for SOPs, for example, which is very frequently used with Boris, is creating the postmortems. So you had incident, Boris has access to Slack, it has access to the metrics, and AWS has access to the code. It can put it all together and produce a postmortem for you, but every team will have their own way of doing postmortems, the formats where they save them, and this is where they can customize it. So that we usually supply the some things that they can start with as a SOP template for the postmortem, but then they customize it so it fits their needs and so on.
Yeah, I think this shows exactly the point of these skills and SOPs, right? Like let's say the capabilities there for the reasoning, for the creation, is basically how you structure it in a way that fits what you want to do, right? And I think from Anatomy, this combination of markdown files and scripts that can come, for example, in case of Claude skills, allow you to do quite a lot of things, right? So you have kind of this textual definition of how things should look like, and then you can have these scripts that make things more deterministic, which is usually one of the challenges with AI, right? That you want the outcome, or say the output, to always be the same when it's something like a document. So you can leverage these things just so people also understand how can you prevent a bit of hallucinations or some of these kind of things, is to have some of these scripts as kind of a way for the skill or the SOP to build things in a more deterministic way.
Right. One thing that we haven't mentioned last time when we spoke about context, I don't think we mentioned it, which is also related to skills. So if you don't have skills yet, one thing that you probably do have and you've seen is a different kind of file that you put in your repository that calls Agents.md or Claude.md or Kiro steering rules or cursor rules and stuff like that. So, but if you focus on like Agents.md and Claude.md, those are usually starting points for the agents. Those different from the skills. Those will go straight to your context because those usually load at the session start. So the difference here is that the skills, they are dynamically discoverable and they will be loaded once needed. The agents and Claude.md files, they load at the session start and they will pollute your context. So you want to be really careful what you're putting in there. You don't want to put everything in those. It's more like the reference system where things are in your repository, what this repo is all about, to give the agent a head start. And another thing to keep in mind is that those files have a different hierarchical structure. So with the Claude.md files, those accumulate. So if you have multiple different levels of your project, all of them will be sum up. Agents.md usually don't sum up, and it's just like from the repo root. So keep those in mind.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, as you mentioned, it reminded me as well, like in case someone haven't used the skills and are wondering how do you trigger them, right? Like if you're using Claude Code, just as an example, because it's the tool that I use daily. So when you create a skill, you can put hints on, so the agent knows, for example, if you say, I don't know, like add this item to the backlog. So if you have a skill that says trigger on something related to backlog, then the agent might say like, oh, okay, I'm going to use this skill because it helps. Or you can also do a / command, right? So you can like intentionally say use this skill and then you send the text. So then you tell the agent, I want you to use this. So it's just a way, if you're sure you want to use that skill, then you can do it like this. Otherwise, if it's during a chat, the agent naturally will think like, oh yeah, this might be useful. Let me load it in and use it, right? So it's just a hint or a tip on ways to use.
Actually was a thing, like they used to differentiate between commands, so you can create / commands and the skills, but now it's becoming the same thing. So basically removing the notion of commands and skills becoming something that you can call using a / and then the skill name. Any last words to wrap up our conversation about the skills?
I feel we covered, what it is, how to create them, right? Like in general, the structure,
how it's useful for your DevOps workflows, and not only. And I think next time we're going to be talking about hooks. Next week, Monday, Easter.
Oh yeah, that's Monday. So we will see, but I think hooks are a very useful thing that can unlock and automate a lot of things, right? So it's cool. It's a cool topic. Definitely something very interesting.
Coolio. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for watching.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.